Hello and welcome to the latest installment in our UXDX online series. I hope you're really excited for the talks that we have tonight. We have another fantastic lineup and I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to get into those talks. But before we jump into them, I want to give a very quick introduction to UXDX and what we do here and why we host these events. So UXDX is to help companies shift from building software using waterfall projects to moving towards empowered autonomous product teams. And the reason why that's our mission is because in a high change environment, it's a more effective, efficient, and sustainable way of working. So if you're in a low change environment, it makes sense. Build a team, build a product, move them on somewhere else. But if you're finding that you're continuously working in the same areas, it's more efficient to have people who really understand the customer, really understand the business priorities of that part of the product, and are able to iterate quickly and move and figure out what customers need. So but that's very easy to say, oh, we'll just swap from waterfall to working in product teams, but it's really hard to do in practice because it ends up changing lots of different things all around the company. And that's where these talks come in. So we ask people to share just their slice of what they're changing or how they're improving their ways of working so that you can start to learn and see how that could maybe work in your context. And that's where questions come in. So our speakers are going to allot some time at the end of their talks so that you can ask any questions that you have and you can share that with them. And anything that you put in, whether it's on the UXDX chat on the right side of the screen here, or whether it's in YouTube or LinkedIn, wherever you're watching this from, if you put those in, we'll be monitoring that chat and we'll put those questions to the speakers. Now, sometimes we get too many questions and we can't answer them all in the allotted time. So that's why we have the UXDX community Slack group. And in there, one of the channels is called Ask the Speakers. So any questions that we don't have time to get through today, we're going to put into that Ask the Speakers channel, and then we'll invite the speakers to come in and answer the questions there. Now that's enough of kind of my introduction. So we'll get straight into the talks. Now we have a slight change. So up front, first we're due to have Agnieszka be talking about how values can change your product story, but we're just working through some technical issues there with Agnieszka at the moment. So we're going to swap her talk with Laura's talk. And so up front, first, we're going to actually introduce Laura, who'll be talking about it's time to get your hands dirty. So I'd like to introduce Laura to the stage. Hi, Laura. I can see your screen there, so I'll hand over to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. Don't get your hands dirty, child. So I think every one of us has heard this phrase before, especially during our childhood. But before I clear up what I want to start with two facts. Fact number one, 1,400 kilometers in 4 days. Fact number two, 30 minutes of washing shoes in the hotel tub. So if you maybe ask yourself now, what do those two facts have to do with getting your hands dirty? I think you can imagine that after visiting 4 construction sites, talking to 5 users, and having a lot of dirt on my hands was the case. So I got a lot of oil, clay, and dirt everywhere, not just on my shoes and on my hands, as well on my clothes and my notebook. But why am I here? And who am I? My name is Laura. I'm a senior UX consultant at a UX agency in Munich. So we're based in Germany. And I've been being a UX consultant, designer, whatever, there are a lot of different job descriptions for almost 5 years now. But my passion lies in research and especially exploring the problem space. So understanding the user, understanding what they need, what they want, and in the best case, it's even for complex products. So what is a complex product for me? It's usually something that I personally do not use in my daily work or even know of their existence. So According to Statista from January last year, around 3 million people in Germany work in the fields of metal construction, mechatronics, energy and electrical professions, structural and civil engineering. I dare to say that this is an industry, or there are more industries, where digital products with a really good user experience are not necessarily present. Why? I think it's a good question. But because of the complexity and sometimes unfamiliar terrain, I think it's even more important to understand the whole environment, especially when you create digital products for those specific industries, but as well if you create any kind of product, not just digital ones. And for it's super important to understand the target audience and especially their needs and problems. So last year in March, I was able to fly to the US. And as you see here from my small little town in Germany to Racine in Wisconsin, it was quite a flight and a ride. And there we had the possibility to talk to those very same users on site. So those users from the industries that we usually just walk by on our day-to-day work and you never have a look at it. And it was super exciting. We had the possibility to learn about a work environment, the needs, and the problems of users on construction sites. And the problems may well include the full clay stick shoes that I had to wash for 30 minutes in a bathtub. So, after a long flight and a short night in the hotel, we started at 7 a.m. on a Monday. All in all, we visited only 4 different construction sites, but we spent a lot of time in the car during the mentioned 1,400 kilometers in 4 days. I will tell you a few more learnings that we got, how to use your time during those long kilometers well. So you may ask yourself, what have you been doing on construction sites? Yeah, I told you I talked to users, but well, I would like to introduce you to the product that we've been focusing on. So the product is the Telebelt. Here you have a picture of this beautiful product. And this Telebelt is a truck, as you see, with a mounted conveyor belt, and it can transport gravel or concrete, just what is needed on the construction site. And obviously, you can use it everywhere where you need it. So here, for example, in where they build houses. So what were we doing? If you think like were they doing the user experience design and the research for this truck or a specific part of it? I will give you the answer. So our challenge was to find out how the operators use the Telebelt, but especially how they interact with the remote control and how the remote control can be improved to provide a smooth and great experience on site. So on site, we looked at the setup of the machine. You see here, safety is super important, of course. And we asked the operator with our prepared questions. So we always came earlier when they already were setting up the truck. So we could use the time and talk to the operator and other workers on site and find out how they set up the machine and what to do to have like a safe environment. But as I said, the remote control was our focus there. So we tried to understand how the haptic daily working tool of the Telebelt users is used. We were able to take a look at a wide range of user types as well as applications on site. So we were at the construction sites of houses, as you've seen here or in pictures before, but also at a bridge. So this one was the construction site of a bridge. And here I will show you now in the next picture where some gravel is being brought up with the conveyor belt. So here. And this picture is quite special for us because we were as well very pleased, kind of, that a few small things on site did not work out as they should have. So, for example, this specific gravel was frozen. And that was a problem on the construction side. And we could definitely analyze this problem and pull a need out of it. How we can improve the truck, in this case, not remote control, but still the truck, to find a solution for it. And as I said, as soon as the first truck with stones or the concrete mixer arrived, we couldn't ask the operator, obviously, any more questions. So we had to jump into the observing role. And in this entire picture, you can see how the truck is in use. So we have the first truck putting the gravel on the conveyor belt, and then it's going up and then across, and then we have the conveyor belt here and the house where the gravel goes down. So the exciting thing for us was to see that the operator is equipped with the radio remote control and is kind of tumbling around on the construction site. You see all that clay there. If you think you can't walk on that, they walk on that and you sink in. That's how my shoes got dirty as hell. So, and they have to tumble around and find the best view because they need to see the house. They have to have a contact with the truck driver and they have to see what their truck is doing to move it around. So, that's very important. And if you ask yourself now, why do they have to see the truck driver who's putting gravel on the build? Sometimes if something is not working out, he has to stop tipping the materials onto the machine, and the operator somehow visually needs to tell the truck driver to stop. So I can imagine you're now a bit curious how this operating tool, let's say like this, looks like. So I will give you a glimpse on this. You see, it's an utility item. And our mission was to improve this remote control, understand the whole environment, the target group, the needs, and the problems. And here you can also see very well the condition of the radio remote control in reality. This control is 1 year old. 1 year. Let it sink in. But unfortunately, the operator has no time to maintain this remote control or the truck. They have a lot to do. So this was a real picture. And this was very exciting for us because when we came to the conception, for example, of the icons of the radio remote control, we saw, well, there's a lot of dirt on it. You're not allowed, you shouldn't do them super thin or anything because otherwise you don't see them anymore. And something interesting as well, what you never hear during interviews, like doing them online with the users, you can see they use thick gloves. So it's especially as well important to see where you have which button and that you can still use all of them separately without touching one, not on purpose. And what we, of course, did, we used a human-centered development process as an approach. And we talked to the client first of all about expectations, their target audience, goals, and risks. So we already got a glimpse of everything before we went to the US. And this is something what I can really recommend you to anyone before doing on-site research. Get an initial understanding of the product before talking to the users, especially with complex products like this machine or remote control, where I have no clue about it. I didn't even know it would exist here on this earth. Was very helpful for us. We understood the language of the users, and we didn't, because we would never have the time on site in the US to understand the language, understand the problems and needs, and create a prototype on site. So the very first thing we did was to get an overview of the functionalities, as you see here on this beautiful screenshot, to understand the field of application and other details. So For this purpose, we had a 2-hour call with our contact person on site, and they showed us everything. And this was super, super helpful. So I can just say it again. If you do on-site research, get an initial understanding before visiting the first users. And something else, a little advice, always have enough energy with you. Not just for the video transmission, but as well personal energy. I think everyone that has ever done research before, on site or online, you know it's an exhausting journey. And not just having one interview after another, but especially if you have it on site, you're with a client, and you maybe as well have to be flexible. So try to find a balance between your energy and the whole journey. But it's not just this. I think we all love the great experiences. And I want to share some more thoughts about our journey that we had in the US. I would like to share this quote. So after arriving at a construction site, we were greeted with, "Oh, I heard from Jason that you have a paper cardboard with you. I want to see it as well." So it's a small construction world there in Wisconsin. So word had spread, and I already mentioned that we were building a paper prototype, and this paper prototype was in hot demand. So I want to show it to you as well. Therefore, we brought this prototype, and this prototype was rebuilt or tested at each site. And this possibility resulted in further open discussions, and it brought out visible needs, such as the use of safety buttons. So I already mentioned they use thick gloves. So safety buttons are super important to avoid unintentional activation of switches by body part. Operators usually have the tool or the remote control in front of them. And if they lean down, it can happen that they just touch a switch with their belly, for example, and then they turn something on in the truck, and this shouldn't be like that. Safety first. So this was a great takeaway for us because we really could get the most new insights from this observation when the users used our paper prototype and we're rebuilding it with sticks that we had or post-its and whatever. Observing and listening is important. Give me a honk with a microphone, and I would love to scream at a concrete truck driver. This is a statement which I still love. It's a statement which expresses the need for easy contact across a noisy, large construction site. So, as I mentioned before, the operator needs to be in contact with the truck driver, but it's noisy. It's super noisy on a construction site. So, how do you do that? They usually just wave with their hands until something happens. But if the truck driver is on his phone, well, you probably need to run to that nothing happens. So, observe and listen. I know researchers will just not, but especially there, it's worth it. I as well mentioned that we spend a lot of time in the car. And if you do on-site research in a specific time frame, I can just recommend use your time wisely. I know it's a lot of energy that you use, but it's still very important. So we use this time wisely. And we wrote down our insights, especially with our client. So our client was with us in the US. So we prepared beforehand this canvas. And in the car, we had opportunity to write down all the details. So we wrote down the name, the experience level, very important as well, as you know, any specifications of the construction site, further information, and then the most important part of all, the needs, problems, and possible solutions which were mentioned by our users. So this canvas yeah, it was our best friend during the trip, and I was taking a lot of notes home to Germany. Speaking about notes, back in Germany, we had to process, document, and prepare all those impressions in order to make them available to our customer. Our canvases were enriched with photos of the respective construction site, and in order to avoid bias, the insights were once again documented and grouped in a digital anonymous form. After that, we this resulted in hypotheses, problem areas, priorities, and our recommendation for action. But of course, I was not the only one on this project. So I just wanted to as well show you my dear colleague, Bernhard. It was a lot of teamwork that we did. And after presenting the evaluation, we went into further ideation phase, and the prototypes that we made on site were combined with the generated insights. So we created a different radio remote layouts in the end, and it was very nice for us to hand this over. And if you want to know how it's doing now, um, it's now we handed it over. We talked a lot with electricians to ensure technical feasibility, and it should be developed like this year, kind of. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to test our real remote control in the real world, and I hope I could give you a few insights into my research world where I was last year in 1 week. And I hope I could as well give you, yeah, more insights. In addition, I want to raise awareness with my talk because user experience plays an even bigger role in certain industries. And there are also safety aspects in these professions that need to be taken into account. And furthermore, why shouldn't these people also get a more pleasant working environment through a good user experience? And I hope next time when you're doing research or preparing your trip, you think of me and ask yourself, how do your hands get dirty? Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. That was a little bit different, I guess, than most people who are nice, comfortable offices and dealing with digital devices. And I particularly like the belly pushing some of the buttons, something that you don't have to think about usually on a day-to-day. If anybody has any questions, please do write them in the chat box on the right-hand side. So I saw some people, we did have an issue for about 2 or 3 minutes at the start where the stream wasn't working correctly, but I think that's working now. But if everybody has any questions, just please write them in there. But yeah, I guess one question I had to get the ball rolling is, do you always do work with physical devices, or do you also have a kind of, do you also do digital work, and where do you see are the big challenges or overlaps between those?
We mainly do digital products, so that's a fun thing because it was a haptic product, but in the end, it has a digital screen on it. So for us, it was interesting to have the combination of digital and haptic world. Where I see the difference, especially with research for haptic, it's even more important to see how people use the device or the tool. With digital products, of course, it's important as well, but haptic, how you use it, where you put it, yeah, it's a totally different world.
Excellent. And what are I guess, is there anything that people can take away from, because I know field studies are just fantastic. It's probably, from my perspective, listening to you, it's kind of the same things you're watching out for, whether somebody's interacting with a digital device or whether they're interacting with a physical device.
I think it's the same. It's the same, but when you're, for example, when it's with a tool, or in that case, the construction side, like the whole environment is even more important. So they have like most of the time different aspects as well that you have to take into account. For example, where they have to walk. So we almost fell in the water kind of one time because we had to cross this bridge. Well, something the operator has to do as well, jump around any thing. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm conscious that because of the issues at the start, that people might be a minute or two behind us. So I'm just
Oh, no.
trying to see whether they're coming in with questions now. But yeah, I guess, is there anything that really surprised you, having kind of, as you said, working typically in the digital space? Did you like it, or would you like to do a bit more haptic?
I really loved it to do the haptic product, or the mix between haptic and digital. I think the biggest surprise was it takes almost 1 year to order those switches. So we had to finalize our research 2 weeks after we came back to Germany, yeah, because they ordered it. So I think that was a big surprise for us, because with the digital world way, yeah, you can do iterations, you can do a small MVP which can be used, but with this, a MVP still needs to somehow work with the truck. So.
Yeah, I'm probably showing my age, but I do remember working on some projects where we had to get the server order in 6 to 8 months in advance of going live, because it was back when we were building on-site servers for hosting everything. So it's so much easier nowadays.
True.
Excellent. Well, I haven't seen any questions coming in, so I think we'll wrap up there. But thank you very much, Laura, for sharing on your experience with physical devices and getting your hands dirty.
Thank you.
Excellent. So up next we have, and apologies about the earlier kind of swapping around of the talk order, but I'd like to invite now Agnieszka, who will be talking about how the values can change your product story. So I'd like to welcome Agnieszka.
Hi, it's really nice to be here and be able to talk. I
Great.
hope that you hear me well, and everyone will be hearing me well.
Yep. Yeah, everything's working perfectly. So I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Agnieszka Zygmunt, and I'm the leader UX researcher in TenCloud. So, on one hand, I'm taking care of everything related with the research. So, when we are talking about discovery, like the UX research, but I'm also working on strategy and service design. So, I'm not only looking for the insights, I'm also creating the services with my team. And on the other hand, I'm leading the team of the UX experts. And if we will go deeper with the field I'm working in, we can find out that the UX as a topic is a really broad topic. So we have like UX strategy, we have discovery, we have accessibility, we have usability testing, UX research, service definition, content audit, and all other different things. And there's one thing in the middle of all the services, values. So something that I want to talk to you today more about, because when we are talking, I hope that we all know the definition of the values. We know what the value is. And when we are thinking about the values in the context of the creating a product, for example, we are thinking about that we have user values. For example, we have buyer values because not always the user is the buyer. We can have unique value, like from the unique value proposition canvas, when we are looking for something unique to attract users, to be more, to be better than competitors. And we also have something like creator values or company values that we are working for, because as a creator, as a designer, as a person who's working on creating something, we also have an impact on the product. Of course, we have all other different types of the values that also have impact on the product, like market values, community values, cultural values, and family values even. But we all know that we have the values. But if we can look for the process of creating the product, we can find out that if we'll call the product and like compare this to the planet, and this planet have at different orbits. Like the closest orbit to the planet is something that we are taking care the most. So we are focusing on features. We are focusing on bugs that we want to fix. We are focusing on the big backlog for the development or for the design that we have or the new features we want to add. But when we are thinking about the values, it's something that in most of the cases is somewhere behind like the last orbit of this planet. So we know that this value, this kind of the information exists, but to be honest, we not exactly know how we should use this to build the product. Sometimes we use this only in the communication, for example, on the website. Sometimes we use this in the strategy. But when we are talking exactly about building a product, about design process, for example, we don't know how we should use the value. But to answer this question, we need to go back to the basics. Because when we are talking about the values, to understand the values, we need to talk about promises and fulfilling these promises. Because when we are thinking about the values, we have really simple process that we have the promise, so something at the beginning. Then we have fulfilling, like fulfillment of this promise to deliver the value. The value is always at the end. So we need to have the promise at the beginning. Then we have fulfillment. It's the solution to give the value to the user at the end. And to explain this process, it's really simple. For example, we can think about milkshake. Like we can have this promise that it will be the best milkshake ever you have. That the best milkshake that you will be thinking about this all of the time. So you're going through the process of fulfilling, like you are going to the shop, you are checking the menu, you are choosing the milkshake you want to have, you're making the order. And if everything was correct, at the end, you have this value of the best milkshake you ever have. So maybe it will be value connected with being happy or something similar. Of course, it can be compared to any other process. For example, today, like probably like the promise for the stock for this whole event was that you will learn something new. So this is the promise. Then we have the fulfilling. So it's all about the preparation. It's about choosing the people who will be speaking today. It's about, for example, my preparation of the presentation for you. And at the end, I hope that you will receive the value of learning something new. And if we want to go deeper, even deeper to this process, we can find out that behind every stage of this process, we have some details. So when we have the promise, behind this, we have needs and problems of the users. Like needs and problems are building the promises. When we are thinking about fulfilling these promises, it's just about the solution. It's about the service, for example, we are building. It's about the product, the whole context. And when we are thinking about the values, it's really connected with the expectations. Value is like the group of different expectations. So like one name for different expectation about, for example, transparency. Like the value is transparency, expectation is something specific related to the transparency. But when we are creating products, what I find out from my experience, in most of the cases, we like to focus on the solution. So something that is in the middle. It's not at the beginning, it's not at the end. We are focusing on the middle, and it's okay because the solution in most of the situation is the biggest part. Because, for example, we are building something for years, so it's quite hard to not focus on this. But if we will forget about that this is in the middle, so we forget about the promise at the beginning, we forget about the value, solution that doesn't matter, because if we don't have the promise, probably the user will build the promise by themselves. And maybe this promise will not be exactly what we want to share with them. If we don't have the value, even if somebody will use our solution, they will find out that, okay, like this solution is not for me because this is not the value I want to have, because we don't know what value we want to we want to what promise we want to fulfill, what value we want to give them. And also, if we are only focusing on the solution, we are forgetting about really important connection here, that not the solution is building the value. The promise is building the value. The promise is building the expectation. What we have at the beginning, mainly in the communication, it's building what somebody is expecting at the end. Of course, the solution, it's something that it's delivering the value, because if we don't have the solution, we are not able to fulfill the promise and deliver the value. But to build the expectation for the value, we need to have this promise at the beginning. And there's a question, okay, like, so we have the values, we have this process, we have this promise, fulfilling, and value. We know that if we want to create a solution, and if we want to give the value at the end, we need to have the promise. So how to build the promise in this case? So the best example to understand this is Matryoshka. So like with Matryoshka, when you want to build the Matryoshka from the beginning, you need to start with the smallest element. It will be in the middle, so no one will be seeing this. You will be seeing the biggest part of Matryoshka, but you need to have the smallest element in the middle to be able to build and to use all the pieces of Matryoshka. So this is the same situation with promises. If you want to build a promise, you need to start from the end. You need to start with the value. You need to ask yourself, okay, so what values are they expecting? The user is expecting from us. If you have the answer for this, if you, for example, find them in the research, then you are asking yourself, okay, so I know about the values. What are the exact expectations that are related to values, to go more into details? And after these two steps, then you are able to answer, okay, so I know the values, I know the expectation, so what I should promise to them. It's also really simple, like with this process, promise, fulfilling, values. We have here value, expectation, promises. But believe me, it can change how you're thinking about the process. Because mainly when we are thinking about adding values and promises and everything that is related to this part of UX, we are thinking that it will be taking a lot of the time, or for example, after a few months of the research, we will find out that we need to build a whole new service or a whole new product. But to be honest, by using these two things, promises, fulfilling, values, and value, expectation to promises, you can find out that sometimes you don't need big changes. It's helping you to understand user better and to understand what you exactly need to change in the design, but also in the communication to fulfill the promise to give the value. So let me tell you a story from my experience. A few years ago, I was working for a client. They want to redesign the training service. It was one of the biggest projects. So they was knowing that there is a problem with the target group, but no one was knowing what's the cause of the problem. Like no one. So we started like with the user research. We had lots of interviews, surveys, focus group. We had a lot of workshops. Everything was in place when we were talking about the process. And after we map everything, like we map all the needs, problems, the whole journey, the whole service blueprint, we find out that we have a lot of information. We are seeing that we have problems, but we still don't know what's causing these problems. And to be honest, we were stressing out because like we didn't have a lot of time to make another round of the research. We, to be honest, had everything what we can find out from the interviews. So there was a puzzle that was missing. And then we decided, okay, maybe we need to take a step back. And what we did, we decided to add 2 additional points to the customer journey map. So instead only focusing on stages, actions, problems, and emotions, we decided, okay, what if we will map promises, so what we are promising to the users, and if we will map values. But not only like values that user is expecting, but also values that we have in the company. And it was like game changer for us, like a jackpot, because we find out that we have few points in the whole journey when we have really big promises, but we don't have anything when we are talking about values that we are delivering. So we call this black value hole, but to be honest, it was the best name. And we decided, okay, like if we are saying that there's missing something, what if we will try to fill this out with small actions, not with changing the whole service, but for example, like we add additional email, we make some small automatization, we add some phone call to the client during the process. And after a few weeks of this experiment of testing the small changes, because it was really easy to add these points to the customer journey, to the process, we find out that most of the problems are gone. Like we didn't even think that it will be such a good idea that such a small changes in the process can solve the biggest problem, because we are starting to deliver the value to the users. And instead of like losing a lot of money on building a whole new service, it was like only a few percent of the whole budget to introduce the small changes to the current service. And it's still really working really well, because they are still working on values and checking if they are delivering the values and good promises. But in this case, it was about like checking where we have holes with the values and filling these holes. In another case, you can imagine that you have the product. And I know it's a silly example, but in this example, your product is a sun. So you can tell one person that it will support your health, because being on a sun is helping with vitamin, and it's better for your bones. When we are talking to another person, you can tell them that it's supporting producing energy for you. Maybe for another, that it will make you more happy, because, for example, for this person, happiness is the value they are expecting. We have a similar approach for the last product we were working on in TenClouds on virtual branch. So this is the product for banking services. When we have this opportunity to have like video conference with the advisor, and what we find out that we have a lots of users. Not only like because we have banks clients, we have like different type of the advisors. And because we have lots of users, we have lots of different needs and the problems. And what we find out that even if we have different needs, we can solve them, like different needs and different problems, we can solve them with the same feature. But what we need to change is the promise that we are giving at the beginning. So instead, because we were knowing what's the value, what's the solution, and what's the promise, instead of building a new, for example, features or new solution for another target group, we just decide what's working really well, that we will be changing only the promises and offering the same product, but with different promise at the beginning, because we know that this solution will also deliver the values. But this is about the communication. And what if we are thinking about values as part of the design process? Because values are not only about the communication. So you can also check as an example, for example, Google Calendar, because when we're thinking about the values, we need to remember that they're everything in the product. Like it's communication, it's how we approach, how we building the processes, how we building the user flow, how we are designing something. For example, if somebody is looking for the privacy, it's not only about telling them that you will have, it's a private first, it's a solution that it's supporting privacy, for example. It's also about like small features that, for example, in Google Calendar, if you're creating an event, you can make the event private. So you're seeing in your calendar, but nobody more is seeing this event. If somebody is looking for transparency, you can think how you should build, for example, the pricing plan and this the way how you want to design, how you want to show the comparison between the plans. Because if somebody is looking for the transparency, probably you need to add more information, not only the prices, but more information about everything to make a better overview of different plans. If somebody is looking for values related to the community, and for example, you are not able to build like the whole community because it's a lot of work, maybe you can design something, for example, FAQ or knowledge base, that it will be giving the feeling, giving the value of the community, even if you don't have the community. The changes, the direction you will choose when we are talking about the design, it's really important because design is also affecting, design can also be affected by the values, and how you are designing something is a part of the solution that is delivering the values. But okay, like I'm talking about the values, I'm talking about the examples, how they help me with the projects. But to use the values, we need to have the values. So the next question is, okay, like how to find the values if you want to use them. So of course, because I'm the UX researcher, the first thing is just to look for them in the research. But I'm not talking about any specific approach when we are thinking about tools of methods, because you can use interviews, you can use surveys, anything that is working for you and for this project. But it's about for what you are looking for, because if you will ask directly the user what values they are expecting, probably like it will be really hard for them to answer you, because values are really difficult to explain sometimes. But if you will be looking for feelings, if you will be looking for emotions, if you will be looking for expectations, and then you'll try to compare this with all other stuff all other insights about problems, needs, and actions, and the context, it will help you to understand what values you need to, for example, deliver at the specific point of or stage of the process. If you are not able to make the whole research, you can establish this with stakeholders. And we are making really simple tasks with our clients. It's working really, really well. That we have 3 steps. So first of all, we are talking about the users, about their users, who is the user, their problems, needs, motivations, and sometimes goals. Then if we have like this base that is explaining us the user, we are asking, okay, so we have the user, we know what they want. Can you explain us what are their values and expectations? So we are mapping the values and expectations. And at the end, we have the users, we have the expectations. At the end, we are asking about the promises. So, okay, so what we should promise them because if you are looking for the problems, needs, if you are looking for the expectations, what do you think that we should promise them? And it's also working really well when we are talking about the solutions that are existing already. For example, on the last workshop with the client, we did this exercise. So we established the users, we established the problems, then we established the expectations and the values. And then we asked them, okay, so you know what they expect from you. Can you please tell us what you are promising them right now? Not what you want to promise them, but what you are promising them right now. And what was really exciting for us, that the client saw that when we were talking about user expectations, they were talking about partnership, they were talking about security, about transparency. But when we started talking about, okay, what you are promising them right now, it was all about financial expectation. So it was the point that everything was clear, that user is expecting something related to partnership, for example. We are offering them, we are promising them something related to financial expectations. So it was the point when we just tell them, okay, like probably we need to make a step back and just change the promises, because as you can see, what you promise didn't match what they expect. So this is the reason why it's not working. And if you have the values, because you find them in the research or you establish them with the stakeholders, you just need to map them. Like, please use just customer journey map or checklist. Checklist is really simple, but to be honest, it's one of the in my opinion, it's one of the most powerful tools to use when we are thinking about designing something or creating just the service. Because if you create a checklist of the values that you need to deliver in every stage, because it's not that you have one value for the whole product. Probably like in the first stage, for example, if you are buying a ticket for something, you need to have transparency, you need to have security because you will be paying for something. But for example, in another stage, when you are on the concert, when you are on conference, you have another values that you're expecting. For example, having fun or meeting new people or learning something. So having like different checklists for every stage of the process, it's helping you just to check if I have everything. Okay, I have security, I have having control in the communication, I don't have transparency. So how I can add the transparency to the product, to the process? Maybe it will be in the copy, maybe it will be in another form, maybe I will need to add another feature that will be giving this giving this feeling, giving this value. So simple checklist, it's helping you to really remember that you need to add specific values to specific part of the product. And if you have the values, if you map the values on customer journey or created a checklist, please remember also about choosing the priority. Because when we are talking about the values, it's the same like with the features. You are not able to give everything at once because it's too hard. Because you need to build something that will be giving this value. So you need to, for example, build this feature. But when we are talking about the values, like the simple division is for the base values and unique values. We all know about the unique values and that we need to have the unique values. But we are not talking about the base values. And it's the same like base features, that if you have base values, like probably user will not notice this, but if you don't have the base values, they will notice it, because for them it's like the basic, it's the must-have that you need to have this in your solution. So always be sure that you have the base values, and also be sure that you're adding something extra as a unique value, because having only the base, you're the same like competitors. Adding something from the unique values it's just helping you to attract the user, to reach the user, to just show them that it's worth to use the solution. So summing up, because I'm ending with my time, when we are talking about the values, please remember that values are helping us to design for the expectations of users, not ours. It's the tool that is helping us to better understand what we should deliver at the end for the user, because this is the last element. It's helping us to remember that the solution is in the middle. It's not at the beginning, it's not at the end. It's helping to fulfill the promise, to deliver the value for the users. And if you have the values, like please stop saying that you have the values. Please stop only putting them on your website, for example, or on the content version. Like start using them as a tool, because it's really simple. You can just create a checklist and just check if you have anything. You can use the values to help you to build a better features, better product, better processes. And as I was saying in the first example, from my experience with work with the client, it's also helping you to avoid the situation when you have problems, but you don't know what's causing the problems, because you were never thinking about if you are delivering the promise that you are giving to the user. So thank you very much. It was really nice to share something with you. And of course, if you have any questions, I will be really happy to answer them.
Great, thank you very much. That was really great deep dive insight into kind of just the difference between kind of values and promises. And what I took away from it was it's really marketing is how I see a lot of it, and the collaboration that often doesn't happen enough between the people building the products and the people marketing.
Yeah, I agree, like in 100%. I know that like my experience is really related with the marketing. Like I'm the industrial designer. I was industrial designer at the beginning. Then I changed because I was focusing mainly on the research. But I was working also with marketing strategists and business strategists. And I really believe like we need to have this holistic overview. Like we have the specialization, but we need to remember that everything have impact on everything. So the product have impact on marketing, marketing have impact on the product. So we need to work as a team and understand that it's just connecting instead of only thinking about building the product or building the strategy or just execution of the strategy.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm all for more cross-functional collaboration. So I have a question, but if anybody does have any questions out there, please do post them in on the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. But I want to just jump in with the values. What I've often kind of, when you were elaborating on some of those, I was thinking of what other people have called non-functional requirements. So is it secure? Is it stable? Is it kind of, or the ilities, it's accessibility, it's those kind of things. Is that what you're referring to with values, or can you give me some more tangible examples if it's something slightly different?
When we are talking about the values, I don't know if I answered it correctly because I had a problem of hearing you for a second. I know that we have the problem with my connection. But when we are talking about the values, I never divide them between like something that's related to the technical and something that's related to non-technical, because it's on our side to decide how we want to deliver this value. If we will be delivering this by technical way, by, for example, building the feature, or if we'll be delivering this by the communication. Sometimes maybe it will be both, because as I was showing on the examples, like the transparency, it's not only about the communication, it's also about how we build something. Like security, it will be about the technical part of the solution, because, for example, if we have video conferences, we can choose different types of transferring the video. One will be more secure, one will be less. But also it will be about how we will design the whole experience and how we will communicate the whole experience and security of this. So it's still connecting. Like we have the values, and then we need to decide what we want to do and how we want to deliver. What will be the best path to deliver, technical or not technical?
Excellent. And I had one other question, but I might actually post it on the Slack group, because I love the explanation. But for me personally, maybe I'm just a little bit slower at picking these things up. I would love maybe a bit more, if you had an example of, okay, here's some promises or kind of values, or sorry, what is it? It's the values, the promises, and the I'm getting confused now with them. But if you could share, I'll write the question in on the Slack group, and it'd be great if you could just give maybe just a kind of, okay, here's an example of a project you're working on. These were the user needs, and these were the values, and these were the promises, so that people can have a bit more tangible example of what was working.
Yeah, I will be happy to, because I know that like I was knowing that it's only like 25 minutes, so it's for me
it's hard to get everything.
Yeah, especially that I love to talk a lot, and I want to share as much possible as I can share with somebody. Values are a really deep topic if we want to talk about them. So I'll be happy to share more on the Slack. What they can.
Great. And we have some feedback from Brenda, who said, thank you, Agnieszka. That was a valuable speech. I definitely took notes from it. So you've got some admirers out there. So thank you very much for sharing your case study.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. So that brings us to our next speaker. So I would like to introduce Yuval, who is going to talk about UX writing. So welcome, Yuval.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Very good. If you can share your screen, I'll start presenting it. Oh, have you? No.
There you go. Can you see my screen?
Yep, everything's working, so I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. So how many people do we have in the audience? I can't tell, but if you're here, just tell me that you're here and where you are in the world right now, right here in the chat. So I could have some idea about who is here, who is not. Okay, so welcome everyone. Okay, say no comment from no one, just Brenda is here. So hey Brenda, how are you? Good to see you. I saw that you're from the US. Happy to have you here. If there is anyone else that want to say hi in the comments, so I would definitely appreciate it, so I will know that I'm not alone. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. Today I will talk about kicking off UX writing in your company like a pro, and why you should care about UX writing. So is there anyone here that have UX writers in their company? Okay, yes, no. Oh, hey Brenda, you're in Colorado. Okay, nice to have you. And Brenda, I know that you work in public relations. Do you know about UX writing? Today I'm just trying to understand the levels of depth I should get here, but
one thing just to flag, we had a 2 or 3 minute issue with the stream at the start, so there is a chance that people might be 3 or 4 minutes behind you.
I see. And where can I see the people here in the discussion, or I can't? It's not an option.
You can't, unfortunately, on the system.
No worries. So just jump right in. I just really like when there is some kind of an interaction with the audience, but whatever works for you. So the first thing I would like to say is hi. My name is Yuval. I am the founder of the UX Writing Hub, host of the Writers in Tech podcast. And I've been working as a UX writer as well, and a UX writing project manager for the past few years, in addition to being a UX writing educator. And had a chance to implement this methodology in many different companies around the world. And today I will tell you all about it. So as a few of you might know, better design means better business. So the better our UX is going to be, the better our business is going to be. And not many people know about it, but writing is designing. So writing is designing. So the better design you're going to have, the better business you're going to have equals. So the better writing you're going to have, the better business you're going to have. That's more or less about it. So let me share with you just a case study. So in 2018, every person in Hawaii got this alert to their pocket, to their mobile devices. It says emergency alert. Ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. And many people got this notification to their mobile device. Now, they didn't understand why it happened. They thought they're under threat. Everybody actually went to shelter. It cost a lot of money because millions of people thought that they are under attack, which was not true. It was a false alarm. And the reason what made this alarm happen is basically there's a story behind it. So the story is that oh, hey Brenda, I'm starting study UX, and the area I'm most interested is UX writing. So excited to learn more today. Awesome, that's great, Brenda. So basically, people should not get this message. The reason that they got this message is because of a human error. And the human error that happened was this one. So basically, there is a guy that is in charge of doing all of the drill exercises in the system of the missile alerts in Hawaii, and this is user interface. And while he was supposed to press this button, the drill button, drill Pakum state only, he actually pressed this button, Pakum state only. It looks slightly similar. So because of the word drill and the way that it was designed, which was not really designed. He pressed the wrong button, and that's how he launched this emergency alert. Everybody got it into their pocket, create a huge cluster storm, and it wasn't that ideal. So we learned here that bad design, bad writing can really, really hurt your business and damage it. And it's not only about the fact that good writing will do good for a business, but bad writing and bad design will be bad for your business. So it's about that. This is an example by Google. You can check it in Google I/O 2017. Pretty awesome talk by the UX writing team at Google. And they said that they changed the text here from book a room to check availability. That's it. They just changed the microcopy. And that change alone increased the engagement of these clicks, of the amount of people that actually check the availability of Google hotels in 17%. So it basically created better business for them because it had better microcopy. So this is another example how better writing can be better for a business. This is an example by Google. So what does a UX writer actually do? So this is a screen by Slack. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with Slack or if you use it in your daily job. Slack is a very famous app that many people use it in their work to communicate, chat with each other, and so on. So this is a notification where 77, when you're about to send a message and you're about to tag people on Slack, so it's about to notify them. So this is the notification. Now I want you to see the notification without writing. So without writing, it doesn't say anything. This is lorem ipsum, it's demi content, it's not real content. It doesn't mean anything. This is the exact same screen without the design. So you can see that you don't have any hierarchy, nothing is actually clear. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. It do make sense, but not a lot of sense. And this is the screen with the design and with the content. And you can see that when you take technology and you communicate it and design it in a good and positive way, you can actually end up creating really positive user experience. The reason that the user experience of this screen is good is because it makes sure that people would not wake up in the middle of the night because of a Slack notification. It creates some kind of a friction. So this is very good design and very good writing communicated in an interaction in an app. So words matter and have a real impact on people and businesses. If there is one thing you need to take from this call today, it's that. And this is an example by Greta van der Maar. And this is a very common example for UX writers. So people think UX writing is easy, and designers say to the UX writer, "Hey, can you write this so it fits into 2 lines?" And people really underestimate the value of UX writing. And just know that easy reading is hard writing. It takes time, it takes effort to create positive user experience. You need to do massive amount of research. You need to do user interviews. You need to analyze your user's conversation, doing a methodology called conversation mining. We need to analyze our user, see how they talk to each other, and then communicate our app in the best possible way for them. Because easy reading is hard writing. It's very, very difficult to do this type of writing. But we're doing our best. So if any of you work as a designer, just know that UX writing is not easy. Let me give you an example by a company that I had a chance to work with. So the name of that company is Whiskey. Whiskey is an app that helps people to book ski trips. And we had a really big challenge in Whiskey. In Whiskey, the problem that we had is that we had a dilemma because we weren't sure how we should call the ski trip in the app. Should we call it a ski trip or a ski holiday? So we had to do massive amount of research, and we had to learn the UK markets and the US markets, and to see how people are used to say this word. Are they used to say a ski holiday or a ski trip? And then when we decide that we will use the term ski trip, we had to implement the word trip all over the interface, so it will be consistent, because we can't use the word ski holiday in one area and ski trip in another area. So just this small word, just picking one single word in your interface, in your product, might be very challenging and might create very intensive impact, or it might have very intensive impact on the business and on the user experience as well. Because if people will see ski holidays here and ski holidays there and their ski trips, they will be very confused. So we want to make sure we will avoid this confusion, and we will make sure to create consistent language so our user will get it. And at the end of the day, it will be better for our business. So what's a good UX writer is like? So not many people understand the difference between copywriting and marketing and UX writing. So I want to take you to a trip right now. I want you to imagine that you're going to a bike store. And in that bike store, you have a salesperson, a bike salesperson, and this person try to explain to you why you should buy the bike. The bike person will tell you all of the features of the bike and why they're good and how the pedals are working, and it will show you the benefits of it, so you will end up buying it. Okay, so a salesperson is practically a copywriter because you need to sell. So if you will imagine that our bike store is now virtual, so the person that's trying to sell the bike will be the copywriter. But if we'll go into our bike learning experience, so we'll have another type of person that will teach us basically how to use the bike. Maybe an older sibling, maybe father, but this person is not going to sell the features of the bike, but this person will show us how to use this bike. He will show us what will be the best practicalities of using these bikes. He will guide us in every step of the way. And that person will be the UX writer. So the difference between copywriters and UX writers would be basically the type of approaches that you have when you communicate a digital product. The salesperson will and the copywriter will focus on the benefits. They will try to make a hard sale. And the UX writer, the older sibling, will educate. They will teach us because they would like us to use the product. They don't want us to lay the bike will lay in our storage, right? We want basically our users to use the bike, to use the product. So we will educate them and we will communicate the way that it's being used. So that's more or less about the difference between copywriting and UX writing, and know that it's not the same thing. For example, copywriters use sexy words to attract customers, while UX writers use simple words to explain. While copywriters are sales-oriented, UX writers are product-oriented. Copywriters work with marketers, UX writers work with designers. Copywriters tell stories, UX writers share conversation. Copywriters, and I don't agree with this, that copywriters and UX writers can work alone, because none of them can work alone. Both of them need to work with a team. When you work in UX writing, you need to work with your product team. When you work as a copywriter, you need to work with your team of marketing people. Now, if you have any questions about UX writing, just drop it here in the chat. And I'm moving forward because I know there is a slight delay right now, but I'd love to answer all of your questions, make sure that everything is clear, so you wouldn't have anything that you're not sure about when it comes to UX writing. Okay, so the next thing that you need to do as a UX writer is to create some kind of scenarios in the screens of the app. You need to define different scenarios and communicate them to the end user. Let me give you an example for a product that I've been working on with my team. It's called Hibob. It's an Israeli unicorn company. And the team of students at the UX Writing Academy by the UX Writing Hub and myself worked on this product. So one of the things that we had to create was notifications for their dashboard. So we created some kind of a guideline that educated all of the company, not only the UX writers and not only the designers, but it educated all of the company about the way that notifications need to be communicated. we took the old notifications and we said, we're not going to do it like that. We're going to change that. And we're going to tell users exactly what has just been done. For example, the name of the person, the financial update that just happened, and what exactly happened. And even we will leave a CTA, a call to action, so they could remove the notification. And so we built some kind of a guideline for the product people of HiBob. So this is one example. Another example is how to create a specific success message. And so this is the old one. So we said that the tone is not like HiBob, it's not conversational. We need to add value to the information in order to elevate the UX. So first of all, what happened before is that for every task we assigned, we just created another notification and another notification and another notification. So we just united all of the notifications, and we said what task was reassigned to who. And since then, that's how people created notifications in HiBob. Last example by HiBob. So we said, hey, please avoid sorry, oops, and other emotive language notification appear in bulleted list with 7 days history. So these words might be annoying to the user if they appear one after the other. So no more sorry, no more please, no more that kind of stuff. So that's the old one. Please submit your time off sheet. Please fill your feedback request. So not like that, but this. Tell them exactly what to do. Be clear, concise, and useful. Submit your time off sheet, and not using this type of words that might be annoying if they just repeat time after time after time after time after time. One more example. So avoid end of sentence or end of phrase punctuation. Why? Because these are repetitive as well. So low alert notification. A user might receive 7 shoutouts in a row. So no exclamation marks because it's jarring. So we removed also on the punctuation as well. And now UX writing is high demand. I know that there is a tech recession right now. So there are layoffs. Google just laid off people last week, but UX writing is still high on demand. In companies that are doing well, you can still see that many companies are still hiring UX writers like crazy. It's happening because of the business value that UX writing have. So UX writing doesn't go anywhere. Even if there is a tech recession, we still need people to communicate our products and services to our end users. You can see also the trend here. So this is from Google Trends, and you can see how the trend increased in the past decade or half a decade. And many more companies are hiring these days UX writers and so on. The reason that they do it is because winning writing create winning experiences, create winning products. So invest in your content team. This is, if there is one message you need to learn from this call today, is that you need to invest in your content team, invest in your UX writing, because it's good for your business. My name is Yuval Keshtcher. I'm the founder of the UX Writing Hub, creator of the UX Writing Academy. I want to invite you, by the way, to join our free UX Writing course. If you go to the uxwritinghub.com, you can also check our free UX Writing course. And that's more or less about it. You can have questions right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Yuval. That was, I like some of the examples there because it kind of made it a bit more tangible. It's always quite hard to kind of make these things a bit kind of tangible and digestible for people. So thanks for sharing those.
100%, 100%. Is there any questions? Brenda, maybe do you have a question about UX writing because you're looking to get into that field?
We'll give Brenda a few seconds to write one. What I might ask is, does, like, your point about the direct feedback, like, so ignore please, ignore those kind of words, can you get the opposite reaction where people find it very impersonal? I know a lot of brands now are trying to get to be a bit more casual and friendly. So could there be the adverse reaction?
I don't think it's bad to be kind to your users and say sorry or please. I think it's good, to be honest. I think it's really good. And I do think that if you have repetitive notifications that goes after each other on a constant base, it will be annoying if people would say, "We'll see, sorry, but da 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 da, sorry, but da 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 da, sorry, but," it's like annoying. So if it's like one-time thing, like an error that occurred, and then the app apologize, I think that's a good use case to apologize and be very personal, as you said. But we need to make sure that it's appropriate and not annoying. Did it answer the question?
Yeah, I think it's very much a contextual base, what it is that you're looking at.
Exactly.
So we do have a question come in from Brenda, but if I know there are other people, so I'm just looking, anybody who's Jessica, Audrey, Heather, Harshada, and Zimowitz. So you're the people I've seen posting questions. So if you have other questions as well, please do ask them while we're answering Brenda's one. So Brenda's question is, could you comment a little bit more about the difference between copywriting and UX writing? What I really didn't get was about UX write share conversations.
Yep. So basically, I had an example where I said that while copywriters tell stories, UX writers share conversations. So, yeah, that's the one. So, what I meant here basically is that as a copywriter, you need to be a storyteller. So you try to create a hook and tell a story and to get emotional. But UX writer is more about writing conversations, sharing conversation, create a conversation with the end user. And that's what I wanted to say, basically. To expand on that, I will say that as a UX writer, like I said before, you write for context. So you can write for an error message or you can write for a notification. So you don't have to give like your best shot in every screen that you're writing. You always need to think about the context and the user flow and what's the conversation is like within the user flow. So you always need to think when you write a screen, what was the previous screen? What's going to be the next screen? How can I create consistent and coherent conversation with the end user so it will make sense? And that's what I meant when I said share conversation, because it's not like a copywriter that need to grab your attention and just put everything they got in like a landing page or a marketing website, but it's need to be a conversation that you take from one journey to another within a mobile, within a digital experience for an end user. I hope it answered the question.
Excellent. And Audrey has asked, what was the problem definition of the last case? So that doesn't make sense to me. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, so the problem in the definition of the last case is that it was written that copywriters and UX writers can work alone, which is false. Both copywriters and both UX writers can't work alone. You always have to have some kind of feedback loop with your clients, with your customers, with your users, and iterate on that. So both of them work with different people. When you're a UX writer, you work in a product team, but you can't work alone. You can't work as a UX writer without UX designers and without product managers and without talking to your users. Same goes to copywriters. As a copywriter, you can't work without listening to your customers' pains. You can't do anything without talk with your marketing department and understanding the business goals and so on. So that's why it was like a false claim here in the slides.
Great. Just one thing that popped into my head during your talk, because you gave that Google example. Booking.com gave a talk a while ago where with their insurance, they have the three kind of, if you're going on a trip, they had their standard, premium, and executive insurance, and they renamed them to basic, standard, and premium. And nobody wanted basic anymore. So everybody was going with standard when that was the lowest one. But when they moved standard to the middle one, everyone picked standard. So they massively, it was like a 40% increase in people taking up insurance.
That's amazing. I would say that this is also related to marketing copy and less of UX writing, because at the end of the day, it was all about increasing conversions and selling. So they tried to sell something, and they did it very successfully. But I wouldn't consider that UX writing per se. Just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
There's some overlap between UX writing and marketing, obviously.
Good point. So yeah, Audrey's saying thanks, and Brenda, I think, as well. So I think that brings us to an end. I don't have any other questions. If anybody else wants to jump in with any last questions. No. So I think that brings us to an end. So thank you very much, Yuval, for sharing. And
thank you so much.
I hope everybody out there enjoyed it. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of our session for today. But if you did like the kind of talks and the mission of where we're trying to help teams shift from working in projects to more product teams, we do have a conference coming up our next one is in New York in the USA on May 16th to 18th. We'll have 25 speakers, 8 workshops, 800 attendees across product, UX, design, and dev. Because our mission is very much, if you want to get a product team working, you need everybody to be working together. And what I'll be doing is I'll send out a discount code for everybody who attended tonight. So you can get a discount to attend, 10% off your ticket price for that. So that brings us to an end for this evening. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you at the next event. Thank you very much.